off here. I got a couple different devices here that I'm reading from, so we should be good. If I mess up, just correct me, just catch me. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Clee Jackson, president of the Greater Grand Rapids branch of the NAACP, that's CLE, JACKSON. First of all, we know that this day has been the community, the leadership in this community has been awaiting this for a long time. We feel a long time because of the atrocity in which we all witness this crime happening. So I want to thank, first of all, Commissioner Robert Womack and his team who's standing here with us for his testicular fortitude to highlight this on a national level in the NAACP National Office and our Michigan State Conference President Yvonne White. Also, I want to thank Kent County Prosecutor Chris Becker. We had asked, we were very public with that, for him to recuse himself because we had some legitimate concerns. And I'm just thankful that his opinion today, we feel, is appropriate. And so I want to thank him for his due diligence in his strategy in making sure that this case was looked at appropriately and effectively. But more importantly, I want to thank the Leoya family for their patience in their time of grief in this horrific situation. And so one of the things that I want to make loud and clear is that we stand in solidarity with Patrick's family in asking for peaceful demonstrations and protests. That's what the family has asked for since the very beginning of this. And we stand still in solidarity with them, because one of the things I will say is that I always tell people we will never win the war on the streets. So we have to break systemic systems down and institutions down from a policy level. And so I want to send that out to all of the protesters. We will never win the war on the street. It's fine to protest, but it has to be peaceful. It has to be strategic. And at the end of the day, we have to make systemic changes. We have here today with us Elisa Nehemiah, also Honesty Hodges' grandmother. And I want to thank her for joining us. You all are very familiar with Honesty's case, and that's an ongoing case, and we're still supporting the family with respect to this systemic harassment and brutality from the Grand Rapids Police Department. So we are happy with the decision to indict Officer Christopher Schurr for the unjustified murder of Patrick Leoya. There have been too many incidents where Black and brown lives have been lost at the hands of law enforcement, whose number one priority should be to protect and serve all citizens. Although this is a step in the right direction, we hope that all involved in this next phase will be unbiased, and ultimately, Officer Christopher Schurr will be convicted for his heinous actions. We will continue to work with our local elected officials and city leadership to ensure the proper reforms are put in place and effectively implemented to prevent more tragedies like this from happening or taking place. This has been a historical, in terms of GRPD, and not just GRPD, I think law enforcement agencies across the country, of harassment and over-policing of Black and brown residents in cities across this country. We will also continue to work with our U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives to demand that they pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. I also want to acknowledge our Youth Council President, President Javon Fields, for standing up here with us, and all of our youth activists has been on the ground, and that has been digitally making sure that this story stays alive. One of the last things, and then we can open it up for questions that I will mention, is that as a result of this, and we have been working on this for a number of years in terms of what can we do from a technological perspective, right? Because as we know, the video, none of us could see the video because the video was confiscated with respect to witnesses and body cams and all of that stuff. And so it took a while for us to see the video. So we have been thinking about, from a technology perspective, what can we do to address that? So I want to say today that we will be launching a technological tool that will help individuals address a number of rights, not just from law enforcement, but a number of rights across the board. It will be essentially a hub of sorts, an online hub that will track all of these injustices and help with the integrity of evidence, because it's a wrap. It's a wrap. So I'll open it up for questions.
How confident are you that they will be able to get a guilty verdict here if this case is held here in Kent County? Because we just asked the prosecutor, is he thinking about moving this case? And he said, no, it's going to stay right here in Kent County.
Well, that's one of the things. That's an excellent question. That's one of our concerns. And we'll be looking into that in terms of, can we get this case moved to a different venue? I actually think it probably should be. But I also think there has been a historical issue with a fair and representative jury of your peers. So that's going to be very critical in this case. And so we will be researching that and trying to understand what needs to happen from that perspective. Because as I said earlier, it's about conviction, right? So the charges have been made, but it's about conviction.
And these charges, what message does that send to the Black community to see that an officer, a white officer that shot an unarmed Black man, was charged with second-degree murder? What message does that send to the Black community?
It sends a loud message. It sends I mean, let's be honest. We historically, we hosted, and Honesty's grandmother was here at the hearings that we hosted with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, I believe in 2019, where we had almost 900 folks come out over a 9-hour period and talk about in-depthly the injustices that have been measured on community by the Grand Rapids Police Department. So we know that, right? So we know that. So I think this is a step in the right direction. And again, I applaud Chris Becker, the Kent County prosecutor, for bringing charges, because I think that many of us were not confident that this would happen, even though when we looked at it from a legality perspective, we still were not confident that it actually happened, that it would happen, these charges, but we're glad. So it's a step in the right direction. Again, I just want to, again, echo my comments with respect to Chris Becker and him having the fortitude to bring these charges.
So again, to follow up on that, what was your initial gut reaction to that second-degree charge being filed?
I was shocked, to be quite honest. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked, because I actually didn't expect that. I mean, just being in full transparency, I did not expect that. I did not. I knew it should happen, but I did not expect it for a number of reasons that I won't get into, in terms of relationship between the prosecutor's office, Grand Rapids Police, and the city leadership, and a number of other things. So I really, but again, we're thankful for Chris having that fortitude to bring the charges that we feel comfortable with. And so now we'll have to continue to fight in the courts.
Do you plan on still talking with Becker? Because I remember that day when you had did a press conference outside his office asking him to recuse himself to step aside from this case. Are you going to still talk with him?
Absolutely. Chris and I have a great relationship. We've worked on a number of things, and we partner on a number of initiatives. And I think on a number of things we see eye to eye. And so, of course, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to talk to him about his decision. And in full disclosure, I have not contacted him because today has been busy. But moving forward, we absolutely will be talking with him.
Because I know he had said he had spoken to people outside of his office on what they should do. After that day of that press conference outside his office, did you talk to him again?
I did not. Actually, I did not. We did not have any further conversation because at the end of the day, there was nothing else to talk about, really. So I respect Chris. I respect his legal acumen. And so we had the conversation a couple of times about him recusing himself. And he made it very clear to us that he was not going to do that. And so we allowed, and we were very patient with the process, and we're here today with his decision.
Do you feel there should have been additional charges? In the prosecutor's press conference, he said that he couldn't bring a felony firearm charge, citing a previous Michigan Supreme Court's case that prevented him from doing so.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, our legal counsel actually is not here. He's stuck in traffic coming from Chicago. So I'm not going to get into the additional charges, but that's something that we will be, I'm sure in the coming days, we'll be having a conversation with Mr. Becker about as well.
You said you were shocked about the charges. Aside from that initial reaction, do you feel like second-degree murder brings justice to this case?
Because I knew that we couldn't do first degree. It is. It's not manslaughter. So I think we looked at all of the legal elements in terms of first, second, third, manslaughter, and all of those things. So I think second degree. That's why I said I was shocked, because there's precedence also, and most of you probably know, at the U.S. Supreme Court level, that speaks to a clear and present danger. And so that was one of the things that we were looking at as well, in that his opinion could actually be based on that Supreme Court law. But again, I think we are happy. We're pleased with Mr. Becker's decision or his opinion. And again, I just want to say this. Now the fight really begins, because it's a fight in the courts. It's a fight in the courts. And so we will be fighting in the court system to hopefully ensure that there is ultimately a conviction. That's what it is. That's what President Obama said when he looked at policing and reformation across the country. One of the areas that he identified that totally needs to be reformed is the court system. So that's where our fight is now. And we're going to, again, stand by the family and stand by all of these families. You know, Honesty's Hodges family is still fighting for justice over an alleged mistaken identity of Honesty, 11-year-old, I believe at the time, for a 40-year-old white female. So one of the things that we will be doing as we move forward, our next step will be, and we already have drafted, our legal counsel has drafted the letter. We'll be sending that off tomorrow to Kristen Clark and Vanita Gupta at the U.S. Department of Justice, asking for a full pattern and practice investigation into the Grand Rapids Police Department. And so that's what we will be doing. We have met with U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence with respect to that. We met with the U.S. Attorney for the Western District, Attorney Todd, with respect to that. We met with the Dana Nessel. And so that's what one of our next steps will be.
Two more questions. Speaking about next step, I know you said you stand firm with the family on peaceful protest. There's a planned protest in front of GRPD tonight. Do any of you plan on being out there tonight as well?
I'm sure. I mean, you know, we represent 60,000 plus members in King County. So I'm sure there will be NAACP members out there.
Do you plan on being out there?
I don't plan on being out there because we got a number of other issues that we need to, next steps that we need to address immediately. We are planning a meeting, I believe, on Monday with City Manager Washington, Chief Winstrom, and the Office of Public Oversight and Accountability to talk about the policy violations also that no one's talking about.
And what message does this send to the police department to see these charges come against the GRPD?
I don't, you know, that's a great question. I can't recall if this has ever happened. Can anybody? I can't recall. And so I think this sends a strong message. It does. It sends, I hope that it sends a strong message that ultimately your job is to protect and serve. And let me be clear on this point as well. When I talked about this, it's a RAP app. It's a rights app. One of the things that we fully understand is that goes both ways. So as civilians, we have to respect law enforcement and their rights. And law enforcement has to respect the rights of civilians. It goes both ways. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to go home. That's it. So I think this will send a loud message. I think it has sent, and we'll see. Like I said right now, and I'll speak to the protesters and all of us who are protesting. Our fight courts now.
Do you expect the officer to be fired today?
I thought he was already. County jail is my understanding.
No more questions.
All right.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you guys.